In one of our recent videos, we tackled the issue of keeping long-term campaigns alive. One of our biggest tips for game masters was to find ways to tie a player character's backstory into the campaign. Now, if you're running a homebrew campaign in a homebrew setting, or even a published setting like Dragonlance, then there's not really an issue. Just tie a character from their backstory into the main plot that you're actively designing, and you're good. But if you're running a pre-written adventure like Curse of Strahd or Descend into Avernus, how are you supposed to factor in backstory? These adventures are planned down to the rooms and the dungeons and the miles between towns. Not to mention, the best of them feature characters and hints that come up throughout the adventure, so even a small change can quickly spiral into a pretty serious problem. In this video, we're going to give you some tips, tricks, and methods to either find a spot for your players' backstories in a pre-written campaign, or to roll up your sleeves and do some rewriting to make things work. First things first, it's with a heavy heart that we tell you that yes, you do need to read the entire adventure in advance. This will make it so that you both know the shape of the whole adventure and can make changes without being surprised when they totally shift things down the road. Let's take an arc from Curse of Strahd as an example for what we mean. One of your players wants to be a knight looking for his order's master. Having only glanced at the adventure, you say, sure. You're a member of the Order of the Silver Dragon. Cut ahead, and it turns out that the order is exclusive to Barovia and has no living members. As you're forced to explain away these issues, the quest at the center of the Knights suddenly becomes incredibly involved. While you manage to get a few references in, they feel a bit forced, and come to think of it, whatever happened to that missing master? What if instead you had known the shape of the adventure from the start? Suddenly, that PC's the descendant of a knight that escaped Barovia. The Order of the Silver Dragon in the Prime Plane always seeks to recover their lost first chapter, and your PC rides in pursuing his ill-fated master who went on his own quest to find the Order. That NPC is revealed to have tragically fallen and is now a revenant chained to the realm like the other original knights. Now, the quest is a mission of honor and redemption that pulls the PC in and makes them the center of the story for an entire chapter. But this is only possible if you've read the adventure through and are familiar with all the players and events in the campaign. Waiting to read up on the adventure can leave you scrambling to look for names and connections while trying to pull up maps and encounters all at the same time. Knowing what's coming ahead of time lets you, as a DM, shift the quest and seed information about what will be found later on, keeping things in line with the larger adventure. Our next tip is pretty closely related to our first. Start the process of making backstories work before the game starts to save yourself a major headache. It'll be a lot easier to work in backstories if players aren't coming in blind with ideas that might not match the adventure or even each other. Tell the players to hold off on making characters until your session 0, which we highly recommend, and give them a solid breakdown of what the adventure will be like. In our experience, nothing helps as much as telling our party what genre to expect, and then consider giving them a few movies or shows or even songs as examples of the vibe you're going for. When session 0 rolls around, players and characters will be a little more in tune with the adventure and with each other, making it a whole lot easier to roll things into the adventure. Otherwise, you'll end up with a sorcerer looking for their mom, a pumpkin man looking for their god, and a werewolf trying to cure a disease that isn't even in the adventure. Folding all of that in will be a huge challenge even for experienced DMs. But a party that worked together to create their characters might even have a few of the same backstory beats. Now, instead of the last mishmash, you have a knight of the old order, a paladin looking to smite an ancient evil vampire, and a wizard looking for a lost temple that holds great power. That's a great trio if you know Curse of Strahd. Starting early helps you let your players succeed, and makes things a lot easier for yourself down the road. Now, at this point, you should have your adventure read through in advance, and your party should be completely developed. So how do you actually change an adventure, or even just an arc, to fit your PC's backgrounds if they don't naturally mesh? There are two main approaches that we're going to recommend. First up is simple plug and play. and the second is full-on adaptation. The plug-and-play method keeps things pretty easy while still offering a lot of exciting opportunities for a player to interact with. So you just take a quest or an arc that already seems to line up well with the PC's backstory and start minor adjustments. First, find a quest that works. This might take a bit of time, but you should eventually end up with something that fits pretty closely. You can even seed this quest in the player's backstory by offering up pieces of that quest to add to their first pitch of the character. Next, look for NPCs that can be swapped out with characters from the player's past. Maybe the mysterious man that killed the rogue's parents is secretly a member of the Cult of Tiamat. Finally, start adjusting the quest to fit the player's story. The example with the Order of the Silver Dragon above is a good one. You might need to have someone escape in a past generation, or you might need to turn an isolated incident into one of a chain of events. This lets the player feel like this is their quest, and thankfully it should be tied into the overarching story of the adventure already. Just because the Order is redeemed doesn't mean that Strahd isn't still out there. The adaptation method is not for the faint of heart or people in a hurry. It's best done well and truly in advance, but it can be really rewarding. When you want to adapt a quest in the adventure, you try to put in more of your player's backstory than the original quest. So step one is finding a quest or an arc that's interesting or that you like just the basic frame of. Maybe the strange political struggle in Vallaki draws your eye. Or maybe the blights on Yester Hill seem like they could be a little bit more. 2. Get a good idea of the other quests that are tied to the one you chose. If the adventure's well written, it should tie into more than a few. Making a list of these keeps you from goofing something up down the line. Step 3. Get to work writing an adventure. Start off with the base quest as an outline and make whatever changes you need. Some factions can just get a simple reflavor, while others might need to be completely remade. Although that doesn't mean those nice pre-generated stat blocks have to go as well. Make sure to include some moments where the other PCs can shine as well. If you have a rogue and a cleric in the wings, then a manor that needs breaking into and some undead in the attic should do just fine. Again, adaptation is a lot of work, but it gives you a full range of customization and can help you build up skills for writing up full adventures or even entire campaigns. Now, it's important to remember, no matter what method you use to fold in your character backstories, you need to give your players agency. It can be easy when writing to get a bit too stuck on a particular result or approach that you want the party to take. Leave lots of room for them to explore, and don't be afraid to go with the flow if they really surprise you. A bit of a caveat here. For newer players, this kind of focused arc plus lots of choice can be overwhelming. So we also recommend you give the player a heads up, especially if they're new to the TTRPG space. Some people will get a lot out of having something sprung on them, but those players are few and far between. Most players really benefit from having some time to think about what they want to say or do in game. So when you know that that character's arc is about to cross their path, don't be afraid to text the player and give them some notice. It can help them be more confident in their choices and to remind themselves of their backstory. Every table's had a dramatic reveal be met with crickets because no one remembered the name of a sheriff from a small town and their backstory that they wrote 2 years ago. If you offer lots of opportunities for all of your players to enter the spotlight, remember, don't play favorites. Soon enough, your pre-written adventure will become a collage of the original adventure itself, your own flavor, and your party's backstories. Drawing in the PCs one by one will help keep them engaged and point them all towards the real threat as your closing sessions approach. These odd misfortunes and quests that link your party together give them a united purpose and a united enemy, be it Strahd von Zarovich, Lord Soth, the Cult of Tiamat, or any other nefarious force that you can muster. All you need to do is give yourself enough time to get the adventure prepped, set your players up for success when building characters, and find the approach that works best for you to inject some backstory into your quest of choice. If you can manage to keep all those plates in the air, some memorable adventures are sure to follow. What are some of your favorite backstory moments in your games? Do you have any advice that you think we missed? Let us know in the comments. And remember, stay foolish.